If you were thinking of making a move to the Denver area, you probably have a lot of questions. We're here today to answer them. We've taken questions from Facebook groups, Reddit groups, our own personal lived experience, things we get asked the most in this industry, and we're answering them.
So if you're typing into Google or typing it into ChatGPT, we are here to answer it because we figured out that you're asking those questions, maybe with a little more accuracy and personal touch from local people.
And Jake, why do you think we're qualified to be answering all these questions?
Well, I'd say because we have a combined 22 years of experience in real estate, full-time real estate, no part-time jobs other than being your part-time tour guides here on YouTube, and just full lived experience. And we've been here, we lived here even longer. Maybe we shouldn't add that number up combined, but
yeah, our whole lives, so we won't have that number.
So thanks for joining us today, and here we are. We're going to answer questions all about Denver, the suburbs, where to live, where not to live, and all sorts of fun stuff like that.
Question number 1. When it snows in Colorado, you're supposed to have a beard. So what gives, Jake? What happened to your beard?
Well, for one, it didn't snow all of winter until today. And for two, sometimes I just like to remember how young I look. However, my little sister here broke the bad news that I just look old no matter what, with or without a beard.
Not exactly what I said, but I said something close to that. Okay, let's get into the real questions.
Real question. Number 1, we're going to start with the big question of how do you get to Denver? What do you do when you land here? The sort of moving to Denver process itself.
Yep, and number 1 of that is, how do I make the move? Like, is there a great moving company that I should be using to make this cross the country move, or what do you have?
So our experience with moving companies is kind of all over the place. So I'll say, it depends on when you're watching this. What our recommendation would be is to reach out to us at the time you're watching this, because a moving company might be good for a year and they might go out of business. And we've got a new one that we're trying out recently, but we don't have great reports yet to give you an accurate answer. So my honest answer is that I'm really reticent to give a lot of resources on this one, because every time I hear someone tell the story of how they hired a company to leave Colorado or come into Colorado, it's never a good story. It's always like, yeah, they quoted us this great price, and then the day of the move they showed up and it tripled. True story from my clients. It's insane.
Because they know once they're there and you're in the bind, you got to do it.
Yeah, so I would be really careful about these companies. The way we typically kind of default is recommending using pods. So that company, they drop off the big red pod in front of your house. Either you or you can hire local movers to move all the stuff into the pod. Pod company ships it to wherever you're going. They can store it for you for a little while. Prices are reasonable. You can connect with a good moving company on either side.
And that we do have a good recommendation for. So reach out to us. Here we've got the great movers that we've had time and time again really good reports from. It's just the cross-country movers that not always going great.
Yeah, never heard a good story. So with that, let us know and we'll help you out. Next, once you have gotten all of your things here, we should probably be looking for a rental in advance. But let's talk about, there's a lot of questions about how do I find a rental? How do I find a short term? How do I find a medium term? What do I need to know about rentals? So we're going to launch into that.
Yeah, I think the first thing you need to be doing when you're looking for a rental in Denver is call us. Text us, because there's a lot of things that you need to be aware of when you're moving here. And we actually have a full renter's guide that will help you figuring out, if your plan is rent for a little bit and then buy a home, we have a ton of tips of how you can make that, as seamless as possible. They include things on timing. It's really important to know when the hot time to buy is and try to kind of avoid being up against a ton of competition. And if your lease lands you right in the middle of that, it's unideal. But we can just kind of talk to you about if sometimes you have to have that be your timing. That's okay. We can talk you through how to work around it, kind of some skills and techniques of how to do that well. And then, of course, a ton of stuff on avoiding scams. I mean, scams are everywhere here when you're renting. I'm sure you've run into it. I've personally had clients who have sent me postings that right away I could tell that is not real. And they'll take real homes that are actually on the market and they will steal the information, make it look really legit, and get you in, and then ask to collect a deposit before they even show you a home. Will help you spot all those red flags.
So then if you're looking for a short or a medium term rental, there's tons of places to go on this. Personally, I'm a big fan of Airbnb. It's just it's reliable. It's a large platform. There's good insurance and protections for everyone on all sides. You can find furnished things on there. You can find unfurnished things on there. But finding a good medium-term or short-term rental is a great way to land in Denver and then start exploring all the neighborhoods before you invest a ton of money into buying something. So you can actually have an understanding of this very large city. I mean, not large in terms of from New York, it's not very many people here, but it's very sprawling and spread out. So there's Airbnb, VRBO, nurse, there's the what is it called? The nurse finder, traveling nurse. There's a website for traveling nurses, and these are very active in the Colorado and Denver area. So tons of opportunities to find good medium terms. They're all over. You're going to pay a little more for the convenience of the short or medium term, but especially like we're talking with this timing of the market, if it can spit you out into a really nice time where there's good inventory and not a ton of buyer competition, it's worth a premium to figure out, where you want to live on your own terms.
Yeah, we're always talking about costs, and we're saying when you're looking at these short-term costs that they suck. It's not fun. But when you break down what you're spending extra to maybe have a little extra time on your lease, or maybe do have a little month-to-month lease where you can have the freedom to explore everything, that can save you so much money in the long term. Because what we don't want you to do is come here, pick a neighborhood, realize you don't love it, or realize you were looking for the wrong things in your home because you didn't really explore and you have to move again in a year. That's not what we want. And if you think you have an idea of where you want to live, we've got video tours of all those neighborhoods. I highly encourage you to start watching those and really sitting with which one feels like a fit. But none of that is ever a substitute for coming with us and looking around the neighborhoods, looking in the homes, grabbing lunch in the area. That's really going to tell you if what you've seen on our videos confirms for you is really right. So give yourself that time with these flexible rental situations and really explore what you need.
Yeah, we're happy to talk you through things and tell you what we think would be the right neighborhood for you. But, sometimes you change your mind, and what folks tell us changes as they explore those neighborhoods. Whereas maybe you think the Highlands is going to be the perfect thing for you, but then you get to know Congress Park and you're like, oh, it's a little quieter and it's still very walkable, but this is actually perfect for us. And it's a pretty big difference in neighborhood there.
So we got a lot of questions about cost of living. Coming from another place, you might not know what to expect. So what does the cost of living look like here? And I think, starting off with maybe your grocery bill, what does that look like?
Yeah, so it's a pretty expensive place. It's one of the, definitely top 10 most expensive metropolitan areas in the country. Grocery bills for us, we are a family of 4. I've got 2 little girls, so a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. Complicated neurodivergent things, so we don't eat a lot of food, but we're very particular about our food. Anyway, for our family of 4, we're hitting the budget pretty hard, and we're making it work for right about $1,500 a month. When we're a little more loosey-goosey, with things.
You guys almost never eat out.
We almost never eat out because our family sucks at eating out. So we almost always eat at home, and a little more comfortably, if we're not thinking about it and being budget conscious, probably $2,000 to $2,200 a month. So
yeah, and I think you guys are a little bit on the higher end. You guys definitely always buy organic. You're shopping at the Whole Foods. Like you said,
we've been hitting Costco harder recently.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think our bill's a little bit lower, but it just kind of helps you get a range.
But yeah, then as far as cost of living, you did a whole video on this, didn't you, Megan?
I did. I have a whole video all about the cost of living in Denver. And in it, I break down every major city, every major area around the Denver area. And I compare everything from rent prices to home prices to where you could find cheaper gas. And I kind of go over everything. So if you want a deeper dive on that, I highly suggest watching that video. It really sets it all up nicely for you.
All right, so another frequently asked question is, where should young professionals live in Denver?
Whoa. Fair housing police over here. We have to be really careful about categorizing a specific neighborhood based on the types of people we assume live there. We're not supposed to be doing that.
Okay, so now young professionals. So we're going to talk about areas, whether you're a young professional or an old non-professional, or anything in between, where you might want to live near walkable areas, near nightlife, near like tech centers and places where there's lots of commerce happening. So places like that, whether or not you are in any of those categories of person.
Perfect. Jake, what are the first areas that come to your mind?
I was thinking like the Highlands area. So this is kind of the northwest side of Denver, west of I-25, south of I-70. We've got Highlands, Sloan's Lake area, Berkeley area, this whole kind of like Highlands, Slow High. There's so many neighborhoods up there, but this whole area is really awesome because one, it's super walkable. You've got lots of nightlife, lots of restaurants, lots of coffee shops. Then you've got access to I-70 if you need to get anywhere. You've got access to Highway 6 on the south side if you need to, easy access to I-25 if you're heading down to the tech center. Really exciting place to live, and you can find really cool homes there. That's probably the number one that comes to mind.
Yeah, I think if you're maybe a little less young in your heart, you can do like Central Centennial area. It's really good access to DTC. It still has, lots of like shops and little restaurants.
That's the Denver Tech Center, by the way.
Yes, I'm always abbreviating. Jake's always on me. Like, nobody knows what DTC is. Denver Tech Center. But then, it's still not like the nightlife that is offered like of Denver. So you'd have to be okay with maybe traveling a little bit for that. But really close proximity to DTC and a lot of other things.
Yeah, and if you're in the Tech Center, there's a lot of mostly like apartments, and there are some nice houses around the Tech Center as well. There's a lot of more condensed living. There's definitely nightlife in the tech center. It's just more the kind of nightlife that you're probably going to take an Uber to as opposed to walking to.
And maybe clock out a little earlier.
Clock out a little early, yeah.
You mentioned you feel like Cherry Creek was a good option.
So being near Cherry Creek is a good option, yeah, because there's some commerce that happens in Cherry Creek for sure.
And I just think of it as being so expensive up there. Like, how does that compare, though, to like Highlands, Berkeley, Sloan's? Isn't it more expensive over in Cherry Creek?
The Cherry Creek area, so there's two Cherry Creeks, right? So we're not talking about the Cherry Creek Reservoir if you're looking at a map. There's the kind of Cherry Creek shopping area, and there's a lot of commerce around there, a lot of banking and all sorts of things. Living in Cherry Creek is pretty pricey. Your average detached home, I have a whole video on this, so make sure you check out that. It's the Denver appreciation video. It breaks down how much it costs to live in Cherry Creek. But an average attached home, like condo, townhome, row home sort of thing, is in the high 900s for that. And your average detached, like single family home, is closer to $2 million. So it's pretty expensive.
It is more expensive than those other areas we were talking about in general.
But there's some neighborhoods that put you really close to Cherry Creek. If you just are, if you don't mind a 10 to 15 minute drive, Hilltop Montclair comes to mind as a great place to live. Congress Park is just north of Cherry Creek. It's a wonderful neighborhood and one of my favorites in all of Denver. Baker's not too far. The houses are a little old. We can get into that in another video. But yeah, just being adjacent to Cherry Creek is also a great place to be. And you can't forget about the Washington Park area. This is really adjacent to so many things. Easy drive to the Tech Center, easy drive to downtown, Washington Park, Corey, Merrill, Glendale, all these areas. Probably too many to really talk about and without ruining this video and having it be a 60-minute video. So if you're looking for that sort of neighborhood, no matter how young or old at heart you might be, reach out to us and we'll help you figure that out.
And we've got tours of almost all of those neighborhoods. And if we don't have it yet, they're coming soon.
Okay, Megan, the people are asking, how do we find a pet-friendly rental in Denver?
Okay, in Denver, the thing is, everybody here has a dog.
If you don't, we will give you a puppy on your way in, so just be ready.
But yeah, so if you're looking to rent and you've got a dog, I'd say most apartments, you're going to be just fine. Most of them are fine with dogs, and a lot of them are fine with cats. When you start switching over into the single family world, it might get a little bit harder if you're looking to rent a, freestanding detached home. And it's going to be even harder if you have a cat. So just know, you might be wanting to be buying pretty quick. I have in the rental guide, I have a whole section all about some of your rules, your rights as a tenant. And in that, we made some recent changes on caps on how much you can collect, how security deposits work and all of that kind of stuff. They've all been made to be a little bit more pet friendly than they were just a few years ago.
And this is also, to me, a good reason to check out the medium-term rentals through Airbnb. So you're going to find a decent amount of folks who are willing to have pets in that because Airbnb actually offers this phenomenal insurance in favor of the homeowner. So they are less concerned about pets destroying their things in some cases because of that great insurance that Airbnb offers. So not a bad way to go.
And then when it comes time to buy, you should just know there are some areas of some states that have lighter restrictions on how many dogs you can have. I didn't know that we were on the lower end until I've had several clients come with more dogs. So most areas of Denver are maxed out at 3 or 4 dogs, depending on your area. So just know that is a rule that exists here in most places. All right, a lot of folks want to know, where should they live that's a suburb but is still really close to the city?
All right, so we're going to have some answers here that some of these are going to kind of be questionably within the Denver city limits, but they're totally different vibes and things. But let's start with Arvada. Arvada's on the northwest side of town. It's a super neat little suburb. It's an easy drive to downtown Denver. It gets you really close to everything. It's got a really cool town center. It's called Old Town Arvada. Really neat place. And on the west side of town, easy escape to the mountains.
Yeah, and I would say retweet for Lakewood. Maybe not as cute of a little downtown area. I think Arvada's is definitely a cuter little.
Yeah, Lakewood's got the Belmar Center, which is like a mall.
Yeah, but still, I'd say everything else, some of the proximity to features and still really close to Denver.
Yeah, we'll have a video out soon for Lakewood, but something kind of cool about that west side of town, especially in Lakewood, is it's really close to town, but you'll drive into these neighborhoods where you're like, did we just drive into the farmlands? Like, where are we right now? And it's really cool. Neat little pockets in Lakewood.
Mm-hmm. And then if you want to go east a little bit, you've got Stapleton, still pretty close.
Oh, it's called Central Park now, Megan.
Central Park. I've been here too long. It used to be Stapleton. So if you ever hear Stapleton, Central Park, that's what we're talking about.
Stapleton got canceled. So just what we did want to bring that up and say, yeah, it's called Central Park now. But if you hear people who have been here a long time, and some of the recording documents still say Stapleton. But that said, Central Park is a really neat area. It's technically in Denver, but it is like its own vibe completely. It's a totally different place. It's a kind of more intentionally designed, newer builds. So you've got a lot of push to front yard culture. You've got some walkability there. There's a couple little pockets that have cool things like the Stanley Marketplace. And it's just very family friendly. There's tons of families there and lots of cool events they go on, like the Big Wonderful is there. It's a really neat vibe of town. Also, Lowry is just south of there. It's a similar vibe, but it's a little older and a little pricier, but not, I would say, as walkable and maybe family-centric, but still a really cool area of town, and it's blowing up there too.
Yeah, I mean, we'll say this in lots of different videos, but how Colorado tends to work is as you head further east, you tend to find more affordability. There's obviously pockets that defy this rule. But yeah, so if you are looking for more affordability on the eastern side of I-25, still close to Denver, there are some areas that might be a good picks.
Other areas that are close to, I would say, Centennial and Greenwood Village are really easy access. They're definitely suburban areas,
yeah, Centennial I would think of as more, I think Arvada and Lakewood and Centennial, they all have these pockets of just true suburbs while still having some proximity. It's all just about how much proximity you need.
And then we can't leave out Littleton. That's the last one we should discuss here. Littleton also has a super cute downtown area, very strong vibe of its own, feels like its own little city, and easy access to downtown and the tech center because you can shoot up Highway 85/Santa Fe, and really just a great spot there.
Yeah, and every one of these have tons of pockets with lots of diversity of what you're looking for. So it's hard to just narrow down and say oh, I'm looking for this, which suburb is right for me. Each of these different cities have little suburbs that have different features. I mean, in Littleton, you can find larger lots, multi-million-dollar homes. You can find smaller homes that are more affordable in a more traditional suburb layout.
Oh, and by the way, we have videos about most of these cities.
You sure?
Make sure you subscribe. Okay, Megan, we get this one a lot when people are trying to figure out where in the Denver area to live. What is the difference between the north side and the south side suburbs outside of Denver?
Yeah, there's a lot that's similar about them, but there's a lot that's different. And I'd say the first thing that comes to mind for me is age. I'd say in everything we're going to say is such a generalization. So, you gotta really go and see and then like figure out each neighborhood. But in general, all of the southern suburbs are a little newer. If we're talking like Highlands Ranch, Parker, Castle Pines, Castle Rock, and comparing them to like Wheat Ridge, Thornton, Lakewood, Arvada, I'd say quite a bit newer and a little more master planned down south.
So you can have more homeowners association down on the south side. That's a little less common in like the Arvada, Westminster areas, but you'll still find that for sure, but a little less.
Yeah, I think with that master planned community feel, is it safe to say like there's a little bit more trail walkability, like planned designated open spaces in the southern suburbs?
Yeah, I think you've got more of like the concrete paths for walking into. I mean, Highlands Ranch is phenomenal for that. It definitely exists in Arvada and areas. But
particularly on the west side.
Particularly on the west side, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And as far as affordability goes, I'd say they're pretty comparable. Like there's going to be pockets that are more expensive, pockets that are less expensive. You probably get a little more square footage in the southern suburbs for what you pay, and that's just because of age. Newer homes just tend to be built a little bit bigger.
Yeah, a little more modern living. Like in Arvada, you're going to find more of like the ranch-style homes. We have one level above ground and then the basement, whereas like in Highlands Ranch, you're going to find more of your two-story homes and things like that. Also, I would say the north side, you're closer to Denver than the south side suburbs. There's just like a lot to get through and a lot more highway to get there. Whereas the north side, it's kind of just north of I-70 and Denver's right there. So north side, I'd say biggest thing, proximity to Denver is the biggest plus, and no less homeowners associations. South side, a little more bang for your buck and a little more community control with those associations. Okay, Megan, what is the literary and bookseller scene like in Denver?
That's a question?
That's a real question.
I'm so sorry. I don't think I'm qualified to answer that. Maybe it sucks because I'm not even exactly sure what that's asking.
I know we do have like bookstores, and like the Tattered Cover is kind of a famous, it used to be like 6 stories high, and like it was.
I love our libraries. I love Tattered Cover.
Yeah, we are the second most literate city in the country, right after Seattle.
Okay, cool. Well, then it's fantastic, I guess. Come on down, book lovers.
We can't tell you what it's like to be a book publisher here, but we had to address that. It was such an interesting question. All right, there's a lot of questions about friendliness in Colorado. Like, are Colorado people friendly? Are they fake friendly? Or are they real friendly? Like, what do you think about that?
This question's always tough for me because I lived here my whole life, so I don't have a ton of exposure to a lot of other cultures. But I'm always asking people when I find out their move here, or every time I have a client that is new here, I'm always asking them, what do you think about our culture? Like, do you think we're friendly? Do you think Colorado has been pretty friendly so far? And people always tell me yes. But I do find we've had several YouTubers comment and say that they don't actually feel like Colorado is a very friendly place. And those always take me by surprise. And sometimes I just wonder, like, what's your definition of friendly? Because I'll tell you, if I'm in the grocery store and someone just like, and I have a bunch of stuff to do and I'm in a rush and someone wants to just like chitter chatter with me, I don't really engage a ton. Now, I think I'm like pretty friendly, but that's just not my idea of like what I want out of my day. Well, maybe that's true for a lot of people. I don't know. I don't think it's true for you. You want to chitter chatter with someone at the grocery store.
It depends on the day, honestly, these days. I have kids now, so I'm more introverted than I used to be. But I think there's a different kind of friendliness depending on the part of the country you are, right? Like I would say, like take the Northeast as an example. Like if you're from the Northeast, I think maybe I don't know if you would call it friendly. I think most people might not call it friendly, but what I notice about being in the Northeast is I'm gonna play like Philadelphia, is like, are people friendly? Like in a different sort of way. It's almost this different level of vulnerability. Like if I'm standing in line somewhere in the middle of Philly, like people are the kind of vulnerable, they'll tell me like what happened in their day and they'll really tell you. And there's almost this like living together, like, oh, we're all in this struggle together. And that's a different thing that comes from, I think, these cities stacked on top of each other, right? It's like, it's the kind of place where it's like, if you order your sandwich wrong, they might send you to the back of the line, but they'll also tell you how awful their day was and like what's going on with their mom. That doesn't happen in Colorado. It's a little different than that. We're friendly, but maybe we're concealing a little more of what's going on behind the scenes. Whereas if you're from the South, it's a very different kind of friendliness. Like, some people, I love the South personally. Some people say that the South is fake friendly, but it's a different...
We have so many people from like Texas. Texas is one of our big places where we get a lot of people from.
Yeah.
Super friendly. I always enjoy conversation with them, and I feel like they're really polite.
But I would say like our friendliness is probably on a similar level of like California friendliness. Whenever I go to California, it's like the conversations I have with people, interactions is almost indistinguishable. And big surprise, tons of people from California came here. So different level of friendliness, but I would say it's genuine. It's just on a different level and a different kind of friendliness depending on the part of the country you come from.
Comment and tell us what you think about friendliness in Colorado. I love reading those YouTube comments because I feel like it exposed me to this whole new world of perspectives I didn't even know existed. I'm over here thinking Colorado is so friendly, so lovely. It's interesting hearing people affirm that or deny it.
All right, Megan, from our folks from warmer places, what is it like living in Colorado and, for people who aren't used to the snow and the weather?
Well, first of all, if you came this year, you didn't have to deal with any snow. We're having like our third snowstorm right now, which is really crazy. But most years we do get quite a bit of snow. And a lot of times I have people from out of state and they ask me about snow tires. I would say in general, if you're just doing like regular typical driving, I don't think you need to usually buy just specific snow tires that you change out just for the winter. I've always just gotten all season tires, but you need to get nice ones. Really, really nice all season tires on most cars will get you through good winters. But if you skimp or you have old tires that like the tread is starting to wear, that can really impact you on the ice and snow. So just get nice all season ones and you should be pretty set and stay on top on maintaining them. And then hail, I think, if maybe you have hail if you don't have snow, but hail is really big here in Colorado. So every time you have a hailstorm, get your insurance adjuster out, because if you get the big hailstorm and it comes through and you wait too long, the insurance won't cover it. So even if you have like a past hailstorm damage and the new one comes through, get your adjuster out, and then that way you can just make sure you get that covered.
It is nice to have yourself at least an all-wheel drive, if not a four-wheel drive vehicle. The difference there is like all-wheel drive is that all the wheels are kind of functioning together, and four-wheel drive is just like it's more powerful, right? So the four-wheel drive is like they are all four wheels are working and they are just like plowing through things. So nice to have one of those things, or at least not a rear wheel drive vehicle. Those are pretty rare these days, but if you have one, you are not going anywhere in the snow if there's a big snowstorm.
But you don't need to buy some massive SUV. Like I had two different Honda Civics back to back, and that's what I had from like 16 to like 23, and they served me lovely. Just had nice tires on them. They did great.
All right, that's a wrap for frequently asked questions for today. But if we missed anything, drop it in the comments. Let us know what your questions are, or reach out to us directly.
All of our information is in the description below. And whether you're looking to move in 9 days or 900 days, we are Jake and Megan Friedel, your full-time real estate agents, part-time tour guides to all things Denver living. So reach out to us, and we are so excited to get you started on your home buying journey.
See you next time. Thanks for being here today.